Hello and welcome to the program. This edition of Newsroom series covering Nigeria's Northeast. I am Bukola Koka. And let's set the ball rolling right away as the Yobe state government says it will employ more teachers in basic and secondary schools, as well as improve the welfare of the existing teachers in its quest to revitalize the sector. The executive chairman, Yobe State Universal Basic Education Board, Mr. Umaru Hassan Babayu, disclosed this when he visited schools to monitor the end of the first term examinations.
The executive chairman of the Yobe State Universal Basic Education Board, Umaru Hassan Babayu, is visiting Government Girls Day Junior Secondary School in Damaturu, the state capital, where he interacts with the principal, teachers, and students. He then proceeds to Government Junior Secondary School, Ali Marami, Government Day Secondary School, Dikumari, and others in the state capital, where he's taken through the examination procedures.
What did you do this morning? What did you do?
Satisfied with what he sees, he addresses staff of the schools and promises that the state government will employ more teachers as well as improve the welfare of the existing ones.
Government is already working on employing additional both teaching and non-teaching staff, because His Excellency the Executive Governor of Yobe State has already given the green light for the finalization of the employment. Certainly within the next weeks, months, there will be employment of additional teachers to fill the obvious gap that is in place. Welfare of staff generally is paramount to the government of Yobe State. Of course, teachers in particular, because of the critical role they play, is also a top priority to government, knowing that actually education is a top priority of the Yobe State government. The minimum wage has just been approved and is being implemented. And of course, other incentives are also in place.
Some of the principals appealed to the state government to consider renovating some of the dilapidated classrooms and tackle the challenges of teacher shortage.
The big challenge that I'm facing in this school is lack of teachers, not enough teachers, especially this core subject that is mathematics, English, basic science. I'm lacking of these three courses. Teachers that are taking this subject, they are not around here.
Okay, one of the challenges is the issue of enrollment. Definitely, there is enrollment in the area, but the challenges are now it is time for harvesting. So since it is time for harvesting, we are getting this kind of challenges with the parents, because very few of them used to release their children to attend school. If you ask them, they will say that the price of beans is being high. So for these reasons, they want to go and at least harvest it.
Yobe is a state that is just recovering from the Boko Haram insurgency. It is hoped that regular inspection and mechanisms put in place by the state government would improve the education sector.
The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, with support from the World Health Organization, has trained frontline health workers on risk communication. The training, which brought together key stakeholders from the Northeast states in Damaturu, the Yobe state capital, was aimed at building their capacity on risk communication, community engagement, social media, and infodemic management. The Yobe State Commissioner for Health, represented by the Director of Public Health, Dr. Hawa Laregoni, described the training as apt, considering the rampant misinformation and disinformation that often trail disease outbreaks.
The WHO and NCDC are supporting the state to develop the capacity of frontline health workers as well as key stakeholders in the risk communication and community engagement, as well as social media and infodemic management across the Northeast geopolitical zone. Especially with the effect of social media now, disease epidemic, how it is transmitted or the capacity to control it and break transmission likely depends on community engagement and involvement in the control itself. And this communication is an effective way of enhancing ownership and ensuring that people have a positive behavior change. So NCDC and WHO are supporting the state government to develop the capacity of the frontline health workers in this. And rumors largely can affect either positively or negatively in the way and manner we control disease outbreaks.
The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has distributed relief materials to over 3,000 flood victims in Gombe State. Persons affected by the flooding in 3 local government areas of Gombe, Kwame and Funakai, received relief items which include rice, groundnut oil, beddings and other forms of interventions to cushion the devastating effects of the disaster. Help came their way after the member representing Gombe, Kwame and Funakai Federal Constituency carried out an on-the-spot assessment of the affected areas and drew the attention of the National Emergency Management Agency. These are some among the over 3,000 persons affected by flood disaster and its negative consequences in Gombe, Kwame and Funakai Federal Constituency in the year 2024, receiving relief materials from the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. With many of the flood victims internally displaced and in need of basic supplies after the flood disaster, NEMA believes these items would help with some of their daily needs.
When the flood disaster happened, the honorable member representing Gombe, Kwame Funakai, went and reported to NEMA headquarters there in Abuja. Then from there, we received a signal. We went for the assessment. We assessed the level of the damages and reported back to NEMA. And that is why this intervention is here today.
In his desire to help his constituents, the lawmaker representing Gombe, Kwame and Funakai Federal Constituency, Mr. Yaya Bauchi, had made several contacts with NEMA to bring succor to them.
Our people are seriously happy because this intervention will go a long way by helping them in coming back to their normal lives. When you lose your property, especially the fire outbreak or the flooding, may always turn someone to be so devastated. And this kind of intervention are those that are helping people to come or maybe to come to their normal senses.
For the beneficiaries, most of whom are internally displaced, the relief materials came in the nick of time.
Really, I'm very, very happy because we have appreciated the effort of the federal government, the NEMA, and our federal constituency, Mr. Alhaji Yaya Bauchi, for their effort twice to see that they have come to our assistance in order to minimize the impact of the flood that have affected us.
While calling on other lawmakers to learn from Yaya Bauchi's example, the National Emergency Management Agency charges aides of the lawmaker to ensure equitable and democratic distribution of the relief materials by getting the relief items to the actual victims of the 2024 flood disaster. Gombe State's Community Action for Resilience and Economic Stimulus, Go Cares, has organized a step-down training on grievances redress mechanisms and gender-based violence for citizens across the 3 senatorial districts of the state. Go Cares has distributed livelihood support, inputs, and given various forms of empowerment to thousands of beneficiaries in all the 11 local governments of the state. According to Go Cares officials, the step-down training is an avenue for teaching beneficiaries from the 114 wards about the state's new approaches at managing grievances and gender-based violence. Gombe State has been rated among the best implementing states in the federal government's NG Cares program, as witnessed in the buy-in of the Inowa Yahaya-led government. With the state's version of NG Cares called Gombe Community Action for Resilience and Economic Stimulus, or Go Cares, delivering livelihood support, farm inputs and other forms of empowerment across the 114 wards of the state, came the need for training on grievances redress and eradication of gender-based violence emanating from the implementation of the program.
The essence of organizing this training in order to equip our gender officers and management in order to address or solve those grievances that may arise during the implementation of the NGCARES project in Gombe State.
In each ward, we have about five representatives. So there are many because we have 114 wards in the state. So each, but to make it very easy, we make the center into 3 centers.
For officers who help to secure redress for grievances, the training will help communities get the best from the Go Cares program.
The statistical analysis of gender-based violence in our society, we know, is quite skyrocketing. And when this kind of program are being staged, the participation of women is much more expected. And where there are high number of women that are to benefit from this program, because we all know that the World Bank, which is collaborating with the federal government to ensure that the beneficiaries are satisfied, concentrate much more on the women. So they want high percentage of the women because they are most vulnerable.
While counting the benefits that Go Cares has brought to several communities in Gombe State, participants open up on the issues that came up during the implementation process.
There are some certain grievances that are going on in our communities. Some of the challenges we are facing is like some of this humanization. Like sometimes when a woman happens to be a beneficiary, the husband may decide to retrieve that particular benefit she has gotten and make use of it, even to make use of it and divert it to another way. In the first instance, we have been given some inputs, farm inputs like fertilizers, chemicals, and we have also domestic animals like sheep and goats. And this has impact on our own life in rural areas. So therefore, a lot of our people, their life increases with the inputs we have gotten.
In my community, in particular Hero Ghana, we raise some issues like extortion from the focal persons. Most of the focal persons, they are conniving with beneficiaries so that when they get the stipend, they are giving them something. So we try to resolve these kind of issues now.
As Go Cares lines up more livelihood support projects for 2025, intending beneficiaries also align their expectations that the step-down training on grievance redress mechanisms and gender-based violence will help deepen the benefits of the past and future interventions. The Taraba state government is insisting that henceforth there will be no hiding place nor be breeding ground for perpetrators of gender-based violence in the state. The State Commissioner for Women Affairs and Child Development, Mary Sinjen, gave the warning at an event to sensitize residents of Kurumi local government area on government's position and disadvantages associated with gender-based violence. We'll have that story and more after this break. Join us again. Welcome back. The Governor of Taraba State, Mr. Agbu Kefas, has approved the recreation of the Ministry of Tertiary Education in the state. In a press statement signed by the Secretary to the State Government, Mr. Gebon Kataps, Governor Kefas directs that Professor Nicholas Oliver, the State Commissioner for Agriculture and Food Security, will oversee the activities of the newly created ministry pending the nomination and approval of a substantive commissioner by the State Assembly. According to the statement, the Permanent Secretary, Health Services Management Board, Mr. Hamidu Kara, is to supervise the activities of the new ministry pending the posting of a substantive permanent secretary. It will be recalled that the Ministry of Tertiary Education had existed under the leadership of former Governor Daira Sishaku and headed by a former member of the Taraba State Assembly representing Karim constituency, Honorable Edward Baraya. The present administration had, on assumption of office, scrapped the ministry for undisclosed reasons. The return of the ministry, however, is coming barely 24 hours after the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, Taraba State Chapter, embarked on an indefinite strike over some issues, including its exclusion from minimum wage implementation and the pension scheme and non-payment of salary backlog. The Taraba state government is insisting that henceforth there will be no hiding place nor breeding ground for perpetrators of gender-based violence in the state. The State Commissioner for Women Affairs and Child Development, Mrs. Mary Sinjen, gave the warning at an event to sensitize residents of Kurumi local government on government's position and disadvantages associated with gender-based violence. She adds that the state is also making plans to establish a family court for swift dispensation of justice to victims.
The Taraba State Ministry of Women Affairs and Child Development, Office of the Wife of the Governor, IPS and NGOs are concluding the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence through sensitization. This time, the campaign is taken to Kurumi local government area of the state, rated the highest in terms of gender-based violence linked to poverty and alcoholism.
The problem as regards to gender-based violence, as it is on record, that the cause of this issue is as a result of poverty and alcohol. And I want to say that because of these challenges, that is why many programs, intervention programs by His Excellency were brought to Kurumi local government here in order to reduce the trend in social biases.
You can imagine that someone that is HIV positive happens to rape 5 to 6 girls here in Kurumi. Now, at the end of it all, you find that a government figure now comes out to say this issue should be lower than, there should be ADR. How will ADR be involved in GBV? It can't be possible. So the involvement of government is anyone that is found in this act should be disciplined.
Surveys conducted by the Taraba State Ministry of Women Affairs and Child Development, Ministry of Justice and non-governmental organizations on the local government area points fingers to refugees from the Republic of Cameroon seeking asylum in the community, and in some instances, ignorance and harmful traditional practices. Unlike last year, where over 100 women and girls reported rape and other gender-based violence on a daily basis in Taraba, the cases seem to be on the decline this year in different communities, except Kurumi Local Council, where victims are encouraged to pursue their cases to a logical conclusion for justice.
What is justice to you is not justice to the other. However, justice does not mean going to court alone. Justice means sometimes mediation. It could mean involving religious leaders to see where such of the GBV cases are handled, especially when it comes to domestic violence. Sometimes the men are not even aware that they need to support their wives economically and allow them to pursue their dreams.
Their cases are likely to be strengthened by new measures initiated by the state government to ensure perpetrators are rooted out.
There will be no hiding place. This administration, in collaboration with stakeholders, is committed to ensuring that those who commit this heinous act face the full weight of the law.
The Taraba state education sector is also being broadened to accommodate those who are stigmatized due to their experience.
Second chance education means women that are dropped out of school or girls that have dropped out of school have the opportunity of going back to school again because we have it in Taraba State.
From the Ministry of Women Affairs.
Some individuals were recognized for their support in fighting gender-based violence, while some women were empowered to start a business and become self-reliant.
The federal government has disbursed over 500 million naira to 26,000 Borno residents under the Presidential Grants and Loans Scheme for MSMEs. Disbursing the funds through the Bank of Industry in Maiduguri, the federal government, through its representative, says the scheme is aimed at reducing hardship through the sustenance of socio-economic activities. The Presidential Grants and Loan Scheme for MSME sensitization meeting is holding across 6 regions of the Federation to create awareness on the intervention program and the disbursement methods by sectors. The flag off in Maiduguri is for the Northeast region and will cascade to the other 5 states. Over 500 business owners comprising farmers, welders, tricycle riders and other small-scale entrepreneurs gathered for the sensitization on the presidential scheme initiated by the Tinubu administration to cushion the effects of subsidy removal on petrol.
As it is, this town hall activity or meeting is taking place across 6 states. We have Lagos, we have Kwara, we have Sokoto, we have Borno, and we have Delta, right? This town hall meeting to celebrate successes, achievement in volume, and across the local government, across all states. For the nano businesses, over 26,000 people have benefited. While for the MSME, the portal is open and is ongoing. People are still applying, right? So disbursement have been made in excess of 500 million. You can see we are far, right? So I call on the good people of Borno to leverage on this funding window. This is a very wonderful initiative of the federal government to cushion the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy.
And as part of activities commemorating this year's International Day of Persons Living with Disability, the governor of Adamawa State, Umaru Fintiri, has described the enactment of laws only as capable of effecting change if the people's commitment aligns with goals that they set out to achieve. The governor made this known at an event marking the 2024 International Day of Persons with Disability in Yola, the state capital. According to him, persons with disability face triple the risk of violence compared with others. Therefore, the enactment of Adamawa State's Persons with Disability Law is to tackle gender violence by ensuring the victims are heard regardless of their physical status.
Members of the Association of Persons Living with Disabilities converge at the banquet hall of the Government House in Yola, Adamawa State, alongside officials of the state government, representatives of security outfits, and various associations of persons living with disabilities, as part of the activities commemorating the 2024 International Day for Persons Living with Disabilities. Setting the tone for the event is the co-lead of the Disability Working Group and the Executive Director of Adamawa People Living with Disabilities.
Each of you carries a unique story, a voice that adds to the collective of hope and progress. Whether you are here as a supporter, a partner, or a person with disability, your commitment inspires us all to dream bigger and work harder toward a world where no one is left behind.
Development partners present at the event include the UNFPA, Adamawa State Program Officer, who laments the limitations placed on physically challenged persons.
For too long, individuals with disabilities have encountered significant obstacles that limited their potentials. Discrimination, inaccessibility of infrastructures, and restricted opportunities have often muted their voices when they should be celebrated and amplified.
Others share their views on the attitude of Nigerians towards them and their plight.
We'll be taking you through the Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Act 2018, which is a national law which is waiting for the domestication in Adamawa State. Prohibition of discrimination and awareness program. Section 1, subsection 1 of this act, a person with disability shall not be discriminated against on the ground of his disability.
Parents are advised to always remember that we are also important members of the larger society. As a woman and a woman with disability and child with disability, we can do better. Let us always encourage to send our girls children with disabilities to school. Secondly, unemployment. You may discover that people with disability, we are lacking in that aspect. We are not included in terms of employment. Employment will come by merit, but we will not be included because of our disability, thinking that we cannot help the community. I was to be on the street begging.
Meanwhile, the Speaker of the Adamawa State House of Assembly and the representative of Governor Umaru Fintiri, alongside the Commissioner for Women Affairs, Niedo Geoffrey Kofulto, commend the role of the state government in ensuring that physically challenged persons get their pride of place in society.
The present administration, under our amiable governor, Right Honorable Amadou Umaru, is always a top priority to persons with disability. Out of the thousands of people empowered by Fresh Air Administration, substantive number of persons with disability are beneficiaries of the empowerment, and more of such is ongoing.
We are transforming our support services from healthcare to legal aid, making them truly accessible to all. We are fostering economic empowerment because independence is the strongest shield against vulnerability. But government cannot do this alone. I challenge every citizen here to become guardians of dignity in your communities. Create opportunities for people living with disabilities in your business and institutions. Report violations without hesitation.
The high point of the event is the display of traditional dances and the presentation of wheelchairs and crutches to physically challenged persons.
A fine place to live it, and that's it on the program. Join us again next week. I am Bukola Koka. Bye for now.